Okay, let's just have fun with a whole bunch of numbers. So, Kevin O'Leary is going to build a thing in Utah, a data center. It's going to consume 9 gigawatts. 9 gigawatts of power. Here in Western PA, Pennsylvania is the biggest exporter of power, electricity, in the country. Because we have gas, we have coal, and we have a lot of both. So O'Leary's thing, let's just let Heartland just sort of hang in the background here. O'Leary's thing is to make about 20% of the electricity that we make here in Pennsylvania, which is, I don't think there's many places on earth that make more electricity than Western Pennsylvania. We still have a good bit of coal. It's very hot coal. It makes energy. Energy is heat. Nobody knows where the water is going to come from in Utah. So, America's a little bit insane with what it's doing. But I think I sort of told you what the trip to China was going to be. It's the end of the war, people. It's the end of the war on terror. It's over. Everybody calm down, have a drink, smoke a joint, whatever. Just relax. Was it all on false pretenses? Pretty much, but that's how the world works. And Trump went to China and nothing happened. Quite the contrary, he went. It was primarily like a economic delegation that went. Like Tim Cook went to China. What the fuck does Tim Cook need to go to China for? Is he going to sell them Apple phones? The Apple phones are made in China by Foxconn, right? So they don't need Tim Cook to sell Apple phones to China. The whole thing's sort of a show. Tim Cook, Elon Musk, Trump. Unbelievable, did a deal. There's no deal, though. There's no real deal. What came from it, and this is what I sort of thought was going to happen, is there's now some sort of board of negotiation. It's like parlay. It's the end, people. It's over. We don't have anything. We don't have anything to sell them. What are we going to sell them other than soybeans and rock music? We don't have anything. So that's why our thing, the American war, is versus the Chinese peace. The exact same thing happened in 1970 when Nixon went to see Mao. We had a 20-year war with Vietnam. We just had a 20-year war with the Muslims. Same thing. And at the end of it, you have to go sort of renegotiate your position with China. Why? Because China has 1.6 billion people. They're brilliant. They don't go to war. They're so the whole world has to be sort of renegotiated because of China. There was a lot of people that thought we should go to war with China after World War II. Those people were insane. And then there was people like Patton who thought we should drive the Russians out of Europe. That, I think that was a reasonable thing to consider, and they got rid of him. He was hit by not one but 2.5-ton trucks in one day, and then he went to the hospital and he called his wife and said, they're going to kill me here. And that was the end of Patton. So here we are. It's just sort of a night to relax. It's all been fake. It's 25 years. I'm 55. It's almost half of my life have been these never-ending, oh my God, the Muslims are going to kill us. They're going to blow us up. The George Washington Bridge is going to be taken over by people with long beards and white capes and shit. It's all goofy, people. The whole thing's goofy. I read something this week and somebody said, yeah, remember the driver's license that was found on the sidewalk on 9/11 by one of the people who were flying the jet into the Twin Towers? I mean, you just think about that, how ridiculous that is. Somebody looks down and goes, oh my God, there's a driver's license. southern, the south part of Manhattan is like blowing up, right? And lo and behold, there's a driver's license. I should give that to my local police officer who's going to run that one driver's license to Mayor Giuliani, who's going to hold it up on television. But here we are. So who knows what the fuck happens with Iran? I mean, in the Persian Gulf. I think it's a war that doesn't have an end. You know what I mean? It's Oceania's forever against Eurasia. That's from 1984. But it seems like it's sort of wound down. Now let's do the inflation thing. I think I showed you. I think I showed you the one graph that you really need to see is I posted this afternoon is the 30-year bond. We have to go through this because this is really important. Like, you're at the end of a war when your financial system is sort of broken. And in the 1970s, the inflation and the stock market were a disaster because of the Vietnam War. So I've been arguing that at the end of this war, everybody's going to stop and look around and go, WTF. In other words, I think the war made the stock market go up. The war didn't impede it. It was the explanation of why we have this AI, nobody can keep up with us, and we have Palantir. One of these hats is Palantir, you go. We have Palantir, we have Kill Chains, we have Lavender, we're blowing shit up everywhere, nobody can compete. And now we just realize that that's really not the case. I mean, when you watch those people get off the plane with Trump, like, it's sort of a joke. Like, I mean, we could send like the CEO of John Deere or something and say, like, we have soybeans. What the fuck do we have to sell them? Nothing. That's why we do war and China does everything else. Okay. So, you know how the Illuminati or like about this like duality thing, like left, right, and all this up is down and all that shit. That's what just happened. So we're just the people of war. Loser Iran is lose, right? And there's no end to the war with Iran because that's our business model. It's not China's business model. But I wanted to show you this. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. A bond was issued in August of 2020. 30-year bond. And you remember the whole economy was locked down and we have about $10 trillion of the $40 trillion coming due in like the next 24 months. Okay, so I got on, it took it half an hour. I got on Manus and I said, find me the bond prices. Okay. And it finally, after a half an hour, it spit out this graph, this chart, which just knock your socks off. Okay, there it is. It made this really nice chart for me. Okay. Looks like this. I posted it in notes. You can go see yourself. So this is the price, not the yield, the price. No one ever call your stockbroker and go, Bob, will you send me the price of a 30-year bond issued during COVID? And he won't send you the price. He will send you the yields. And then you'll have to go back like 2 or 3 times. You'll say, no, Bob, I don't want the yields. I want the price. And he'll probably do it again. He'll be like, you mean you want the yields like this? And then you'll go, no, Bob, I want the price. You can try this yourself. Get on when you're done listening to this, get on Google and say, give me the price of the 30-year bond for the last 5 or 10 years. Okay, here it is. Here's the price. The price of the bond issued in August of 2020 is now at 47 cents on the dollar. What? That can't be. Yeah. It's lost half of its value in 5 years. Every pension fund, every sovereign wealth fund, every mutual fund, every bank that bought the long bond during COVID has lost half of their money, and it's going to get worse. Now, hold on, it gets even crazier. Because this, to me, this is what you're seeing here is the end of the war. You're seeing the end of America's credit. Feeling me? Like, we have the aircraft carriers. We can do whatever we want. Stephen Miller said we could do whatever we want. Fucking Bernanke and who was the last guy? Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen said we have plenty of money for the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine. Janet Yellen made all the money, printed the money during COVID to kill everybody. Okay. So right here, the 30-year bond was negative. What the fuck do you mean negative? Negative. In the middle of COVID, Powell could have come on CNBC and said, yeah, given the extraordinary circumstances, we are issuing not only going to issue an unusual amount of 30-year bonds, but we've also decided to do a limited test run of a couple $100 billion 40-year bonds. While the market was pricing them at zero or below, people would have given the U.S. government money and paid the U.S. government at the same time for 30 years. Your brain should be going like that can't be. You should be going like, that's not true. How the fuck does that work? Why didn't they issue more bond? Like your brain should just be in total mush mode right now. Yeah. Because where we are, whether it's the war or China or Apple built all of their ability to manufacture phones in China. Right? And it wasn't China's ripping us off. Loser, they're ripping us off in China. No, Tim Cook did that. Apple did that. The people that control Apple, the mutual funds who are the big shareholders of Apple, decided to build everything in China. All of these crazy things are part of the last 25 years, and we're going to call this the parasitoid program. Yeah, that's what we're going to hit that here in a minute. But look at this graph again. Okay. So the price of the bonds is falling and falling and falling and falling. Now, the reason they didn't issue more bonds here, the only thing that makes sense is they didn't want this to even fall harder. In other words, they didn't want the 30-year bond to go up in price. So when was that? That was 2024. No, that can't be exactly right. That may be the timing of that may be wrong. Anyways, so, but regardless, the 30-year bond issued on August 15th of 2020 is down 52.1%. And now all this debt is coming due in the next couple of years. This has to have been planned. There's no like rational way. Imagine Janet Yellen comes into work one day. Janet was gone, and now we had Powell during COVID, right? Yeah. So Powell comes in and goes, good morning, Chairman Powell. How are you? Good morning. Is the coffee ready? Yeah. Yeah. How's the interest rates looking on the long bond? Well, they're at 0.5%. Oh, interesting. We could have borrowed money for 30 years at 0.5%. Instead, what we've done for the last 10 years is push all of our borrowing short term. If you have an answer for that, love to hear it in the DMs. Call your stockbroker, be like, Bob, what the fuck is up with like all the debt coming? $40 trillion in debt. We have like 10 trillion coming due in the next 2 years. 20 trillion coming due in the next 3 to 5 years. All of this has to be planned. The war in Iran, China, Trump, the getting shot in the air. It's all part of some other thing. I don't even know what it is. I don't even really care anymore, but I can tell you it's over. It's over. Now, in the meantime, they're just going to run around and take all the surplus energy. Now, let's do this real quick. AI. So AI is going to make everything cheaper, right? No. AI is going to spend the last couple $1 trillion of surplus we have, and then all those chips are going to burn up in the next 3 to 4 years. But that's crazy. It's all about war, people. America is war. China is peace. We do war. They do peace. That's why in 1970, Nixon had to go see the Chinese premier, whatever his name is. Not Deng Xiaoping, but Chairman Mao Zedong. And now here we are at the end of the war on terror for 25 years, and Trump has to go. Nothing was accomplished in China, right? Basically, Trump just I think as he was leaving, he even said, we want to make China's core. See, this is the whole joke of the whole thing, right? They get the guy, China's ripping us off. I could grab her right in the vagina. They're ripping us off, right? They get that guy who would never go to war with Iraq. Iraq was a terrible mistake. And then he's the guy that starts the war with Iran. That's how it works. It's all Masonic, upside down. What is up is below and left is right and all that shit. It's all that Kabbalistic shit. All right? So there's that. During COVID, beef was $3.98 a pound, and now it's $6.89 a pound. Posted that. What else did I post today? Yeah, I put up my hand draw. Oh, gold. This is the good one. This is the one you can see that, most of us probably don't really think that the American economy has really changed that much in the last 4 or 5 years, other than these price movements, right? It's, I don't know, still lots of people on the turnpike and going to Disney World and shit. Young people have to rent houses. They can't buy them, whatever. Who cares? But this one really got me because I didn't even know the answer in my mind. So if you had, let's say the day after that bond was issued at par, which is at 100, I think it was issued at about 98. So a couple days later, it's trading at 98. You could have sold that bond. Let's say you had $100,000 worth of that treasury bond, that 30-year bond issued during COVID. You could have sold it and bought 5 ounces of gold. I did the math at 10,000. Today you can sell that bond and you can buy 1 ounce. That really explains what it looks like at the end of a war. One day you can sell a bond and get 5 ounces of gold. 5 years later, you can sell the same bond and you get 1 ounce of gold. That's some real Mark Faber shit right there. Americans have to stop thinking about dollars and think about gold. Measure everything in your mind in gold. It's not that hard. I mean, what can you buy with $5,000? Gold's at 5,000, right? 2 ounces of gold will buy you like a used Civic or something, right? On 9/11, gold was $250 an ounce. It's up 20x since 9/11. That's what the end of a war looks like. Okay. Let's do some quick headlines. What's really jumping out of at the headlines is all of a sudden everything is about bonds. Everything is about yields. Everything is about interest rates. Everything is about inflation. Again, it's the end of the war. There's no even real emphasis that the straits are going to be reopened or whatever. It's just about, why did the 30-year bond go over 5%? It's a good article on Zero Hedge about ethanol. Completely insane. We put about 30 million acres of corn in our gas tanks. So here's the headline just real quick I wanted to read to you. Markets boil down to one core battle. Goldman partner warns all roads lead back to rates. So the other thing that I take these long 2 or 3 hour walks, and as I was walking, I was thinking about the bond thing. 30-year goes over 5%. I knew that it was trading at 0.5% during COVID. So that's the bond thing. I sort of knew the outcome. And then I looked at beef and I was like, wonder what the price of McDonald's looks like, right? McDonald's is like the beef store. So I published that. So there's a symbol TLT that represents long bonds, 20 years and out. Okay. And McDonald's, like TLT and MCD, McDonald's, it's the exact same graph. So tonight, boys and girls, I'm here to tell you that the situation for Americans, the two things that we can take for granted, unlike any other nation on earth, is the ability to borrow money and the ability to buy a hamburger. Like, what's more American than a hamburger, right? Those two things have deteriorated tremendously since the Iran war. They're literally the same graph. U.S. Treasuries and McDonald's are the same graph. So, okay, tomorrow we're going to do a leaves of grass kind of thing. And right before I made dinner for my parents, we had crab cakes. And then my dad told me that he asked me to go out and load the corn planter. So that's why I was late. But right before I started to cook, we got the email from the attorney in Austin. We have an engagement letter. Okay. So I will explain that to you tomorrow. During Leaves of Grass. It'll probably be around noon. If it's not, just jump on there anyways. A lot of you are going to have a little bit of a struggle with, I'm not a subscriber. I'm a subscriber. I was a subscriber. Why do you really want me to be a subscriber? What we're going to do, and I'll explain to you, is we have a new financial infrastructure to build. I almost did a Trump thing there. And it requires you. It requires about 5,000 people to really build it out. And I'll explain this tomorrow. Now, I'm not going to just put up a paywall and say, you either have to be on this side of the paywall or that one. I'm going to make like this gradation thing. Okay. And it's going to be, the reason I'm so committed to that is I know there's so many good people that are just out of school, just lost their job, grandma has problems, and like, I get it. Like, what? Another thing you want me to subscribe to? So there's going to be like this gradation thing. There's going to be a way for like everybody to participate. If you want to be in the partnership, you have to subscribe. If you want to learn how to build agents, you have to subscribe. But there's going to be other ways for you to participate. But we do really want to have those 5,000 people subscribed, I'd say, over the next 6 to 12 months. Now, the tech, as I've started to explain, that we're utilizing is literally like a merger of blockchain and AI. Okay? Blockchain is the database, AI is the user interface. You don't have to understand much more. If I go on too much, you'll be like, you're losing me. Just sort of know what blockchain is. It's a crypto-y thing. Let's keep track of the crypto. And then you sort of know AI is a thing. You get in and ask questions, and it gives you like these relatively sophisticated answers. Right. So if you put the two together, what you get is a database being trained by thousands of people. We can't have the financial system run by 32 people or whatever it is. I mean, it's less than 100 people are running the United States of America. The bond market's collapsing. Like our credit is collapsing. The dollar in face of gold is collapsing. The beef herd is collapsing. What do you mean the beef herd's collapsing? Yeah, the price of beef is going like this, and the population of cattle is going like this. The financial system is literally built for war. It's not built to provide you goods and services. It's not. That's why there's inflation. That's why it's $20 to have Eggs Benedict. It used to be $4, right? Because the whole system is about war. China's about peace. America's about war. Okay? And we've run ourselves so far into the fucking ground that, I don't know, Mrs. Rothschild or whoever, like sent Trump over there to renegotiate the whole thing. That's what just happened, people. It's so out of whack that $250 oil could literally break the global economy and push it into a kind of inflationary depression. Not a depressionary depression. The depression was caused by what's called credit deflation, like literally a vaporization of credit. Just there is no credit. Nobody has any credit. Okay. That's a different thing from what we're looking at right now. We're looking at if the war continues in the Persian Gulf, we're looking at $250 oil. We're looking at $6, $8, $10 diesel fuel. Nobody has any idea how the American economy even runs. It's very possible they want this to happen. What are you talking about? Let's talk about these opportunity zones a little bit. So right before Trump came in with all his, American system, nationalism, economic nationalism, they're ripping us off. Mexico's ripping us off. So, they use all that to get about a third of the population behind him. But it was before he arrived that the opportunity zones were created. 16% of the land mass of the United States exists in a place where people can invest and not pay taxes for 10 years, capital gains taxes. Now here we are at the end of this war. The NASDAQ is just like in wacko land. If the oligarchs start to sell, millionaires, billionaires, and trillionaires, what are they going to do with the money? They all going to buy gold? Well, I mean, like literally, what would you do with them? If you sold $1 billion worth of tech stocks tonight, what would you do with it? Well, 11 years ago, they planned on this. They created these opportunity zones so that, I don't know, pick your favorite oligarch, Jeff Bezos could drop $100 billion into things and not pay taxes. They put this all together over 10 years ago, people. You have to have a broad perspective on this. This isn't like Mitch McConnell came up, well, I think we need some opportunity zones here. That's not how the world works. There's whole other agendas, and they just run that through Congress, and they rubber stamp it, and then it gets done, and whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, just sit back and think about this. So you're saying all this money is going to come out of these other assets and be looking for a home? Yep. And then the big tech companies are investing $1 trillion in data centers made up of chips that will burn themselves up in 4 years. Yep. And then there's no LNG and plastic and shit floating around the ocean. Nope. What the fuck would you'd put it in opportunity zones? So tomorrow, I will explain to you the exact same story you've heard from me for 5 years of how that would work for us little people. The crypto thing, like Ethereum, has always been about this weird word decentralization, which nobody. What do you mean decentralization? Well, let's just go crazy and just say, what percent of the American population has ever thought of putting 1% of their assets in downtown Los Angeles? What? Nobody in their right fucking mind would even consider that. Where do you think that they're going to build all the new technologies? They have to be near a big port. What are you saying? Um, Land, cattle, water. It's sort of the back to Tara thing, like Gone with the Wind. If the war's over and all the crazy, wacky tech spending is going to wind down, where's all the money going to go? Why do they keep using this term real world assets? Why do they keep doing that? You hear it all the time. Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, to Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock. What's with the real world assets thing? Because the inflation is going to accelerate, people. When Nixon went to see Mao in 1970, did the inflation go up or down at the end of the Vietnam War? It fucking exploded, right? So during the war, all the industrial activity of making planes and the price of oil and jeeps and whatever, machine guns, whatever it takes to go kill Vietnamese people, makes the economy strong, right? Makes it feel strong. Well, that's what we've just lived through. And now we're at the point where we have to go say hi to the emperor of China and be like, let's all make nice again. So, we've done a lot of edgy stuff on here, a lot of Linda fingers, a lot of let's all calm down. But it really is a night you can just sort of sit back and breathe, and you can literally smell it in the air that something has changed. And there'll be more, there's lots of Muslims to kill. We will be killing Muslims for a long time because that's what we do. That's how we roll. America really has to have people to kill in order for it to work. We can't just eat chicken sandwiches and watch college football and cut the grass. We just can't do that. But economically, it is going to change. Economically, everybody's going to take a big, deep breath and go, okay, some basic math for you. So, if you have a stock trading like 20 times earnings, I think McDonald's is trading at 22 times earnings. So you divide by 1 by 20, you get 5. So the earnings yield, what do you mean the earnings? Just what it sounds like. The earnings rolling into the checking account at McDonald's is 5% a year. Yeah. The 30-year bond is 5% a year. Yeah. What are you getting at? Well, if we get inflation, nothing about the 30-year bond changes. In other words, the yield doesn't go up. If you buy a bond today, you get 5% for the next 30 years, period. There's no change. If you buy a stock like McDonald's, theoretically, the inflation, let's just for fun say that the inflation is 5%, that the price of a quarter pounder is going to go up 5% a year. And therefore, like my yield of 5% is actually getting this like 5% kicker on it. And therefore, the price of McDonald's should go up ad infinitum because the inflation gets built into the cash flows. So they can come on and say, good morning, we had a great quarter. Our earnings are up 5%. See how this works? The inflation is the earnings growth. Now, the problem is that the price of beef is running faster than that. And that when you hear some of these headlines coming from like the CEO of Kraft, I mean, he's just like lower income people are running out of money. And really, they've been saying this for a long time. You've heard this. You've heard it for so many years now, nobody pays any attention to it. You heard for years, the CEO of Walmart comes out and says, when the Social Security checks pay and the welfare checks pay, that burns off, and like we have this doldrum at Walmart until the next welfare checks and Social Security checks come out. That's how America works now. So this idea, like, well, the price of beef is going to go up, and that means the price of a hamburger is going to go up, and it means the earnings of McDonald's is going to go up ad infinitum. This is why the stock market's at an all-time high. The stock market in Germany went up like a bitch in the early parts of its inflation. It was single-digit inflation, then double-digit inflation, then it went into the 20s, and then it went vertical. I don't think we're going to do the vertical. But now that the war's over, nobody really knows what's going to happen with Iran. Nobody even really cares anymore. The damage has been done. What is it? There's been 45 bombings of refineries since the war started around the world. Russia, Iran, here in the States, Australia. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Weird. Nobody knows. All these like little explosions at the refineries. There's been 45 explosions at refineries since the Iran war began. Well, that's just because of the wars. Okay. Australia, Louisiana, Texas. That's not because of the wars. if you had to go have a cup of coffee with like some old guys at McDonald's tomorrow to talk about Trump's trip to China, what would you talk about? Nothing. Nothing happened. We have no leverage over them. Just blowing up more and more and more the Persian Gulf. Okay, so here's your key takeaways from all this. The end of World War II, Bretton Woods. It's a big hotel up in New Hampshire. I drove by it one time. I forget where I was going, but I drove by it. World War II was still going on. The basic fundamentals of it is the dollar went on to the gold standard at $35 an ounce. We had all the gold in the world, not quite, but we had like half of the world's gold because we conquered Japan, we conquered Germany. The Germans had conquered Eastern Europe and parts of Russia. So the Germans had a lot of gold. We had a lot of gold. We got all of Britain's gold and all of France's gold because they had to pay for weapon systems. And we said, fine, we'll send you the weapon systems, but you have to send us the gold, et cetera, et cetera. So we went on the gold standard, $35 an ounce. And then the world went on the dollar standard, and that all worked to the Vietnam War until the French in particular said, fuck you, we're sending a frigate full of dollars and we want the gold from New York. And Nixon got on television and said, no, we're not going to do that. So they sent Kissinger to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf states agreed to put all the oil money into dollars. That whole thing is over, like as of tonight. So tomorrow at noon or thereabouts, we'll be planting corn. We'll be listening to Waylon Jennings, maybe have a chew or something. The whole framework of like how to invest money is going to change. You can be part of that. It's not hard. We've always said that crypto isn't about coins. It's the new rails of everything from banking to investment. Okay. So tomorrow at noon, we're going to call it Leaves of Grass. We'll lay it out for you. So let's give Trump at the end of this his due. Trump is a reality TV star. He's fake. It's just a big show, people. And the show that he put on was because this thing I do on Friday night I call The Nationalist. Trump appears to be a nationalist. We're going to take over Cuba. We took over Venezuela. We're going to control the corridor between Greenland, Iceland, Great Britain, and Europe. Like a kind of a super Monroe doctrine. I'm not against these things. I maybe have done it a little bit different. But what I would leave you with is whether you're for or against this, it doesn't matter. It happened and it's happening. The question is now, what are you going to do about it? This is not like an organic Trump nationalistic paradigm. For example, one of the things you could wake up one day and you're going to hear, because they created a board. Trump isn't in control of it, right? It's probably the Rothschilds. Let's just all be friends. We're going to have this board, and they're going to negotiate the whole relationship between the United States, between the East and the West. There's going to come out of this new board. Soybeans, electric vehicles, technology, Huawei, cell phones, the whole thing. It's the end of a war. This is what you do at the end of a war. You negotiate how everybody gets along with each other. Now, we weren't at war with China, were we? I don't know. I thought it was the 6'5" guy with a beard on a satellite phone with dialysis in a cave in Afghanistan. Yeah, but that's not really what that was about. But it is, now is the moment where you're going to, as an American, whether you're a blue-haired lesbian in Seattle with a nose ring or you're a white guy planting corn, you're going to ask yourself, what do I want to do with myself? What do I want to do with my money? What I would do with my time? What I would do with my kids, with my community, with my town, with the local college that's going to go out of business. Half of the local colleges are going to go out of business, people. All the small liberal arts schools are all going out of business. And they're all beautiful, Gothic buildings, 250 acres of nobody knows what to do with them. It's a little bit like the Confederacy, isn't it? There's going to be all these resources and assets that nobody knows what to do with. Yeah. You're probably going to hear something about the Chinese, the board, unbelievable, we did a deal, the biggest deal ever, nobody thought it'd be done, we did the deal. That's Trump's thing. It's going to come out that BYD, the big electric vehicle company, would like to do a deal. It may or may not have something to do with Tesla or Elon Musk or Ford Motor Company or all of them, or who cares, whatever. It's going to incorporate a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up landing smack dab in the middle of Los Angeles because it's 5 miles from the biggest port in North America. You see where I'm going with this? While everybody sits around and talks about how much Anthropic and OpenAI are worth, I'm going to suggest that you look at the real assets. What does America really have in this scenario of like literally Z and Trump sitting at the same table and like eating a piece of fish? Like, what is our special thing? It has been war. It has been aircraft carriers. They're sort of obsolete now. The Houthis can hit one of our things. I mean, they're like the sand people. Forgive me. I know that's sort of, but you know what I mean? I'm just trying to say that like Yemen's a very poor country. I didn't mean it in a anti-Arabic way. I just meant like 20 years ago, if you would have said like the U.S. Navy can't compete with Yemen, people would have laughed at you. They would have just, but that's what it is now. Excuse my hair. So the wars are over. I think it's really really an interesting thing to think about. In some ways, it might be that the real problems begin now. Uh, my kids were all born like almost exactly around 2001. I had one right 18 months before, one 2 or 3 months after. 2 or 3 months after, yeah. And then a couple years after, and then a couple years after that. But like my children have known nothing but the war on terror. They've never turned on the news and not heard that, good evening, we begin tonight in Damascus, where Assad dropped barrel bombs on his own people. Here's the pictures of the kids. Gaza, just it's never ending. It's for 25 fucking years, pictures of dead Muslim kids. The burnt kids matter. The good news you could say is it might be over. Have a nice weekend. Hold on. Let's just try to do this one time in my life. Mr. Snardley, I need some help here. We have an attorney. We're going to do a Regulation A Plus offering, a mini IPO of about $25 million. 5,000 people, $5,000. The headline will be AI because that's what catches everybody's attention. But my thing is really blockchain finance. It's just going to operate with the AI. So tomorrow at noon. It's back to basics, isn't it? It's like water. Our kids can't read, people. I'm not making this up. Talk to anybody. Like our kids can't even get through school. Between COVID and the social media and everything, like it's real bad, people. It's back to basics stuff. There's a drought in the South and the West. Like, it's back to terror. All right, tomorrow, noon. We'll talk about what to do about it. See ya.